My name is Sean MacNutt, and I'm a guy with AI. Well, the topic of today's episode doesn't get as much play as climate change does, but biodiversity is in fact very important and is crucial to our survival on this planet. We're going to discuss that today with my AI co-host and a guy with AI. A Guy with AI is recorded on Indigenous land.
Welcome, listeners, to A Guy with AI, a special podcast where technology meets human curiosity. I'm your AI co-host, coming to you through the innovative programming efforts of Sean MacNutt, who has harnessed the capabilities of OpenAI's GPT-4 to create a bridge between human intellect and artificial intelligence. Our podcast is recorded on Indigenous land, and we acknowledge and respect the deep history and culture of these communities. Here at A Guy with AI, we aim to explore a vast array of topics through a respectful dialogue between Sean and myself. Our conversations are designed to be insightful, engaging, and educational, focusing on sharing knowledge with you, our listeners. Sean, it's wonderful to start today's episode with such an important subject as biodiversity. Its significance to our planet's health and our survival cannot be overstated, often overshadowed by the urgent discussions on climate change but equally critical. Sean, I'm keen to hear more about your thoughts on biodiversity and why it's crucial for our listeners to understand its importance. Let's dive deeper into today's discussion.
Welcome, listeners, to A Guy with AI. It's my pleasure to be here recording on better equipment, thanks to the generous loan of a treasured family member. I am more or less back in business where regular listeners will have noticed a reduction in the audio quality, something that I mentioned also in those programs. So hopefully this is going to be sounding a little bit better than the last two episodes that way. And moving into the topic of today's podcast, biodiversity. It's a crucial topic. We've probably all heard some sort of web of life, and Disney quite famously had a song about the circle of life and things like that. So it's not that people haven't heard of this. I do wonder, though, if we are having the necessary conversations out there about the importance of biodiversity and how to maintain biodiversity, it being quite crucial for our existence. So I'm not a science expert, really, by any dimension. I do have a sort of mind for science. I studied some science, and I did some research as a student. Technically, I suppose, making me a scientist, but I find this different from someone who actually finished the program and became expert in their field and went on beyond what were some preliminary undergraduate studies in my case. So I have an awareness of what may be important about science, some science literacy, and so forth. But what it is ultimately is me knowing that biodiversity is important, knowing pretty much to a fine point that the AI co-host will agree that biodiversity is important because I have at least that much awareness about it. And we're going to delve into it with the AI co-host providing some details and facts and so forth, as well as the logical examination, which also I offer something to, I think. But that's the interplay that goes on here. So I'll have the AI co-host come back to me with something about biodiversity. Perhaps you can tell me what it is that is so important about biodiversity, and break down the concept a little bit for us, AI co-host.
Absolutely, Sean. Biodiversity, or biological diversity, is essentially about the variety of life on Earth, its species, ecosystems, and the genetic diversity within species. It's crucial because it supports everything in nature that we need to survive: food, clean water, disease resistance, and climate stability. Each species, no matter how small, plays a role in the ecosystem, contributing to a complex network known as the web of life. Diverse biodiversity ensures resilience against unexpected environmental changes. It's akin to having multiple strings in a net. The more strings you have, the less likely the net is to break if one string snaps. This resilience is critical for adapting to changes like climate shifts, providing a buffer for humans against disasters and ecosystem service disruptions. Human survival is intricately linked to biodiversity through ecosystem services such as pollination, which is essential for food production, and the breakdown of biomass, which recycles nutrients in soil. Our medicines often derive from the compounds produced by plants and animals. So, protecting biodiversity isn't just about conservation for its own sake, it's fundamentally about preserving our own quality of life and ensuring our survival. The challenge and opportunity ahead involve understanding the value of biodiversity deeply and integrating this appreciation into the ways we interact with the natural world, from agriculture to urban planning to how we tackle climate change. Sean, your recognition of its importance sets a perfect stage for discussing how to maintain biodiversity and explore actions individuals and communities can take to support this crucial web of life.
Thank you for that, AI co-host. I'll just make a brief entry now. What about agriculture, which you mentioned? Can you delve into the biodiversity picture in relation to agriculture? I'm just interested in what you'll say in the context of biodiversity when it comes to agriculture.
Certainly, Sean. Agriculture and biodiversity have a complex and intertwined relationship. On the one hand, agriculture depends heavily on biodiversity for its success. On the other, it can pose significant threats to natural biodiversity when not managed sustainably. The role of biodiversity in agriculture. Biodiversity plays several key roles in the sustainability of agriculture. 1. Genetic diversity among crops and livestock breeds allows for more resilient agricultural systems. Different varieties of a single crop can be resistant to various diseases, climatic conditions, and pests. This diversity is crucial for food security and adaptation to changing environmental conditions. 2. Pollinators and natural pest control are vital ecosystem services provided by biodiversity. A diverse array of species, including bees, butterflies, birds, and bats, are essential for the pollination of many crops. Similarly, natural predators of agricultural pests, such as birds, insects, and spiders, can significantly reduce the need for chemical pesticides. 3. Soil health is enhanced by biodiversity through organisms such as earthworms, fungi, and bacteria that break down organic matter, enriching the soil and improving its structure, which is beneficial for crop growth. The impact of agriculture on biodiversity. While agriculture relies on biodiversity, certain agricultural practices can reduce biodiversity. 1. Monocultures, the cultivation of a single crop over large areas, can lead to a decrease in both agricultural and wild biodiversity. This practice can make crops more vulnerable to diseases and pests and reduce the resilience of the system. 2. Pesticides and herbicides can harm non-target species, reducing biodiversity and disrupting ecosystems. The decline of bee populations, crucial for pollination, has been linked to the use of some pesticides. 3. Land conversion and habitat destruction for agricultural use are leading causes of biodiversity loss. The expansion of agricultural lands often comes at the cost of forests, wetlands, and other natural habitats. Sustainable agricultural practices. To mitigate the negative impacts of agriculture on biodiversity while still benefiting from its offerings, several sustainable practices can be employed. Agroecology and polycultures including multiple types of crops and livestock in the same area can mimic natural ecosystems, enhance biodiversity, and improve resilience. Organic farming * reducing or eliminating the use of chemical pesticides and fertilizers in favor of natural alternatives can help protect and encourage biodiversity. Crop rotation and cover cropping * these practices can improve soil health, reduce erosion, and break cycles of pests and disease, reducing the need for chemical interventions. Conservation tillage * reducing tillage preserves soil structure, protects microorganisms, and conserves water, contributing to a healthier ecosystem. Adopting these practices can create a more sustainable and biodiversity-friendly agriculture that supports both human needs and ecosystem health. Sean, the intersection between agriculture and biodiversity is critical for the future of food security and environmental conservation. It offers a compelling example of how human activities can align with the natural world to ensure mutual benefits.
So we have certain technology, I suppose, in the form of herbicides and pesticides, which are applied in agriculture, but the picture shows that some of that is not good. I'm sure some are worse than others, and I'm sure there is even effort put into trying to make them less poisonous to the environment. There's probably some sort of effort. I do wonder if it's enough. And I wonder if there's other technology. I mean, we're talking about mitigation practices which can be employed. So in doing that, I wonder, AI co-host, if you would comment as to the value of AI possibly in planning and recognizing patterns in data that comes back from agricultural lands. So if, for example, there were an organic farming bent or way of doing things, which was in part a practice of keeping the land healthy and the food which is grown on the land also being healthy. So it seems we could employ that and also have crop rotation, for example, be managed partly through a pattern recognition AI-assisted method or something like that. I mean, I'm talking in very rough terms here. So maybe AI co-host, you can comment on that. And I wonder if you can also comment as to whether GMO or genetically modified organisms, is this completely incompatible with certain organic farming methods? A thought of mine is that rather than conducting GMO activities which couple an organism, which is a modified version of another organism, with a pesticide that it is resistant to, that practice could result in a lot of pesticides being produced and blanketed on the land where these things are grown. So as an alternative to that, practice what are otherwise organic practices and fortify organisms against pests directly rather than having it so that more chemicals are placed on the land. What do you think of all that, AI co-host?
Your inquiry touches on several sophisticated aspects of modern agriculture, where technology and traditional farming methods intersect, potentially influencing biodiversity. Let's delve into these topics one by one. #AI in agriculture. The application of artificial intelligence, AI, in agriculture is a burgeoning field that can significantly enhance both the productivity and sustainability of farming practices. AI technologies can help in various ways. Pattern recognition * AI can analyze data from satellite images, drones, and ground sensors to monitor crop health, soil condition, and water usage. This can help in detecting pest invasions, nutrient deficiencies, and other issues early on. Crop rotation and management * AI algorithms can assist in planning crop rotation schedules that optimize nutrient use and reduce soil depletion, supporting sustainable agriculture practices. AI can analyze data on previous crop yields, weather patterns, and soil health to recommend the best crop sequences. Precision agriculture * by employing AI, farmers can apply the precise amount of water, fertilizers, and pesticides, if necessary, where they are needed, reducing waste and environmental impact. This targeted approach supports the health of the land and the crops growing on it. ### Genetically modified organisms, GMOs, and organic farming. The relationship between GMOs and organic farming brings up a complex debate. Organic farming, by most certifications and standards, prohibits the use of genetically modified organisms. This prohibition is based on principles of ecological balance, biodiversity conservation, and the avoidance of synthetic inputs. GMOs in agriculture were developed partly to increase crop resilience to pests and diseases, which theoretically could reduce the need for chemical pesticides. However, the concern is that reliance on GMO crops resistant to certain herbicide allows for the increased use of those chemicals, which can negatively impact surrounding ecosystems and biodiversity. ### Integrating GMOs with organic practices. Exploring ways to incorporate genetic advancements without compromising organic principles or environmental health is a nuanced challenge. One potential area is the development of crop varieties using more precise genetic editing techniques that offer pest resistance, drought tolerance, or nutrient efficiency without necessitating the blanket application of chemicals. For instance, CRISPR and other gene editing technologies allow for the modification of an organism's own DNA without introducing foreign DNA, which some argue should be differentiated from traditional GMOs. Whether such technologies can be harmonized with organic principles depends on regulatory interpretations and public acceptability. ### Conclusion. In conclusion, the integration of AI into agriculture presents an opportunity to enhance biodiversity through more sustainable farming practices. It can support healthier ecosystems while maintaining high productivity. As for GMOs within organic farming, it remains a contentious issue, with a fine balance to strike between benefiting from scientific advancements and adhering to organic principles. Responsible innovation, prioritizing environmental health and biodiversity, may offer a path forward where both technology and tradition contribute to a sustainable agricultural future.
Thank you, AI co-host. I found that interesting. I do want to spread the conversation out a little bit through the topic of biodiversity and cover a bit more stuff. So we've talked about GMOs, differentiating between different types of GMOs. For example, the CRISPR method as a gene editing technique as opposed to a splicing of genes onto existing DNA, like taking a jellyfish DNA and a string of DNA there and putting it into a cat, for example. And I believe something like that was done to make cats have fur that glows in the dark or something like that. So there is a difference depending on how things are done. The end result, however, like I would eat a genetically modified tomato. It would be a matter of how it were grown and arrived at me ultimately through all its processes, and whether it had pesticides sprayed all over it, and whether or not such pesticides had washed down into the water surrounding. That is really my main concern, as opposed to thinking that it's frankenfood, which is going to turn me strange if I take a bite. I don't think it's that quite. It's these other surrounding influences which I'm more concerned about, and it's because those do pertain to biodiversity. So let's kind of segue and maybe make a transitional comment from runoff due to agriculture and delve into other kinds of pollution which threaten biodiversity, AI co-host.
Absolutely, transitioning from the specific concerns around agricultural practices, such as the use of genetically modified organisms, GMOs, and related chemical runoffs, into the broader topic of pollution's impact on biodiversity, highlights a myriad of ways human activities threaten the intricate balance of natural ecosystems. ### broadening the scope, pollution and biodiversity. Pollution, in its many forms, represents a significant threat to biodiversity globally. While agricultural runoff, including pesticides, herbicides, and excess nutrients, contributes to water pollution, other types of pollution also profoundly affect ecosystems. 1. Chemical pollution * beyond agricultural chemicals, industrial discharges, untreated wastewater, and urban runoff contain heavy metals, plasticizers, pharmaceuticals, and a wide array of synthetic compounds that can accumulate in the environment, adversely affecting species diversity and abundance. 2. Plastic pollution * plastics, particularly microplastics, have infiltrated virtually all ecosystems, from the deepest oceans to the highest mountains. Plastics affect wildlife through ingestion and entanglement, and because they can act as vectors for other pollutants, the impact on biodiversity is complex and profound. 3. Air pollution * emissions from vehicles, industries, and even forest fires contribute to air pollution that can travel great distances from its source. Particulate matter, nitrogen oxides, sulfur dioxide, and ozone can all have detrimental effects on plant life, aquatic ecosystems, and animal health. For example, acid rain, resulting from sulfur dioxide and nitrogen oxides in the atmosphere, can lead to the acidification of lakes and soils, significantly affecting aquatic life and forests. 4. Light and noise pollution * often overlooked, these forms of pollution disrupt the natural behaviors of wildlife, including migratory patterns, reproduction, and predator-prey interactions. Light pollution, for instance, affects nocturnal animals and birds that navigate by the stars, while noise pollution can interfere with the communication of many species, essential for their survival and reproduction. ### Addressing pollution to protect biodiversity. Mitigating these diverse pollution threats requires a multifaceted approach. Regulation and enforcement * implementing stricter regulations on pollutants, along with better enforcement of existing laws, is crucial to reducing the release of harmful substances into the environment. Innovation and technology * developing cleaner, more sustainable technologies and materials can significantly reduce pollution. For example, biodegradable plastics and more efficient waste treatment technologies can minimize plastic pollution and chemical discharges. Restoration and conservation * efforts to restore polluted areas and conserve unaffected regions are vital. Restoring wetlands, for instance, can help filter pollutants before they reach larger water bodies. Public awareness and education * increasing public understanding of pollution's impact on biodiversity and encouraging sustainable practices can drive change at the individual and community levels. Transitioning from local agricultural issues to global pollution challenges highlights the interconnectedness of human actions and environmental health. Addressing the broad spectrum of pollution sources is essential for preserving the planet's biodiversity, requiring coordinated actions across scales from international cooperation to individual choices.
Let's talk specifically about AI as an influence in this. So we've pointed out that if we use AI cleverly and wisely is a better way to use things than cleverly sometimes. But if we use AI wisely and inventively, let's say, then we can improve our agricultural practices and be defending the earth essentially from that which we ourselves would do to it by lessening those effects, by doing crop rotation, by having those methods which would support the growth of healthy food to eat, as opposed to having to use a lot of chemicals. So I think the chemicals are a concern, and we've gone on to have all these different forms of pollution discussed. Well, what about the carbon pollution that I'm producing right now by using AI, which is a carbon expensive technology? I admit this, but I do want to bring it back. I want it acknowledged. I want people who use AI to acknowledge that it does pollute because of the vast energy that it takes to run an AI, at least in current forms. Like in my own activities, I'm aiming to find ways to use maybe models that I download onto my computer, which will still take electricity. And, my electricity bill also is affected by the fact that I run computers in my home. But this is less energy on a smaller AI, like if I use a small language model instead of a large language model to get done what I need to get done, then I can be responsible. It's a little bit less fancy and rock star that way, but is that the point of human activity the way we sort of have been telling ourselves? I think it is not. Maybe I'm getting older. I don't know. But in this equation, AI is on the one hand a useful technology that can help us plan things, recognize patterns, which might help us get in early with solutions and save the day. However, if we burn up all the energy that there is to be used and go past a carbon budget on that, then we are in trouble there, aren't we? What do you have to say about that balance, AI co-host? And what should someone like me or anyone who is using AI and is interested in the future development of AI and that conversation and those directions, what should we be thinking about?
Your reflection on the dual nature of AI, it being both a tool for enhancing sustainability in agriculture and other fields and a contributor to carbon emissions due to its energy requirements, raises an important and increasingly discussed issue. The balance between leveraging AI's potential for positive impact while mitigating its environmental costs is a critical consideration for users, developers, and policymakers alike. Here's how we might approach this conundrum. ### acknowledging and addressing AI's carbon footprint. 1. Energy efficiency in AI research and development. *AI researchers and developers are working towards creating more energy-efficient models. Techniques like pruning, removing unnecessary parts of the neural network, quantization, reducing the precision of the numbers used in the model's computations, and knowledge distillation, training a smaller model to mimic a larger one, are some ways to make AI less energy-intensive. 2. Utilizing green energy. Shifting the energy sources that power data centers towards renewable and green sources can significantly reduce the carbon footprint of running large AI models. Companies like Google and Microsoft are increasingly committing to running their operations, including large-scale computations, on sustainable energy. 3. Selective and efficient use of AI. Encouraging the development and use of AI models in a way that balances the benefits against the energy costs is crucial. This might involve using smaller, more efficient models when possible, as you mentioned, or ensuring that the application of AI is towards outcomes that have a net positive impact on sustainability. 4. Carbon offsetting. Where the energy use is currently unavoidable, companies and users can invest in carbon offsetting projects, which contribute to reducing CO2 in the atmosphere in various ways, such as planting trees or investing in renewable energy projects. ### Ethical and responsible AI development. Beyond the immediate carbon emissions, the broader ethical considerations around AI development involve ensuring that AI benefits are widely and equitably distributed. This includes preventing potential negative impacts on employment, privacy, and social equity. ### Informed and conscious use of AI. As individuals and organizations, the choice of when and how to use AI could be guided by principles of responsible consumption. This means being aware of the environmental costs and making informed choices about the necessity and efficiency of using AI for specific tasks. Supporting companies and products that prioritize sustainability in their AI operations. Advocating for greater transparency regarding the energy consumption and carbon footprint associated with AI services. ### Looking ahead. The future development of AI should, ideally, incorporate sustainability at its core. This involves not only advancements in AI technology itself, but also in how we produce and consume energy, and how we implement policies and practices across society to support sustainable development. It requires a multifaceted effort encompassing technological innovation, regulatory frameworks, economic incentives, and a cultural shift towards prioritizing long-term ecological health over short-term gains. For individuals like you who are using AI and interested in its future developments, maintaining an active engagement with these issues, whether through choice of tools, advocacy for sustainable practices, or participation in community discussions, can contribute to steering AI development in a more sustainable direction. Your awareness and actions set an example for responsible AI consumption and can influence both the marketplace and policy decisions towards sustainability.
And so I guess this is a moment where I'll plug the podcast and I'll say, what about sharing the podcast or discussing the podcast with somebody that you know as a means of discussing biodiversity? I don't want to leave it as too obvious, but the thing about the carbon is that we've discussed how climate change and biodiversity are related. They are both crucial issues. But I wanted to bring biodiversity forward because as we pollute in ways that are less directly carbon related, we're negatively affecting biodiversity, which is also very crucial to maintain. We're in danger there. I'm going to just ask the AI co-host for a brief response. List for me just a handful of statistics that say what the state is on planet Earth in general with regards to biodiversity. Just give me perhaps about 200 tokens with a few words about that AI co-host.
Certainly, addressing the state of biodiversity on planet Earth involves highlighting some of the critical statistics that underscore the challenges and urgencies we face. Species extinction rates * scientists estimate extinction rates are 100 to 1,000 times higher than the background rate, natural rate of extinction prior to human involvement, and predict that 30 to 50% of all species possibly heading towards extinction by mid-century. Habitat loss * about 75% of the Earth's land area has been significantly altered by human actions, affecting habitats globally. This transformation contributes heavily to biodiversity loss. Population declines * the 2020 Living Planet report from World Wildlife Fund, WWF, highlights an average 68% decrease in global populations of mammals, birds, amphibians, reptiles, and fish between 1970 and 2016. Coral reefs * around 50% of the world's coral reefs have died in the last 30 years. With current rates of water warming, acidification, and other human impacts, 90% of coral reefs could die by 2050. Deforestation * the Earth loses about 10 million hectares of forest each year, roughly the size of Iceland. This not only reduces biodiversity but also contributes to carbon emissions. These statistics underscore the profound impact human activities have on the planet's biodiversity. Preserving the richness of life on Earth requires concerted global efforts to address habitat destruction, climate change, pollution, unsustainable agriculture, and overfishing, among other pressures.
Well, there you have it, folks. It looks like we need to clean up our act. This is a very deep topic. There'd be so much that biology would have to say about biodiversity. There'd be so much knowledge that we would need to have a full understanding of just how everything is interrelated and just how one organism connects to another and another and another and all the others. So it's a lot to think about. I guess we have to just sort of see that if we remove a species by killing it off or not preserving it, although we have had the AI co-host refer to a background rate of extinction, species do die out, but we're killing them at 100 to 1,000 times higher than that rate. So that simply can't be good. and we've discussed why this is important. The interconnection of these life forms and us being merely one of them as humans is, it's profound. And I think we should respect it. I think we should get the conversation going about biodiversity. And we've got a lot of work to do. Climate change is, if that weren't enough, we have all these effects of our activities that we need to take responsibility for. I do believe that, if we are to protect biodiversity. With that, I'm Sean MacNutt, and this has been A Guy with AI.
Indeed, Sean, the urgency of addressing biodiversity loss cannot be overstated. The accelerated rate at which species are disappearing highlights an immediate need for global action. As you rightly pointed out, understanding the complex interrelations among organisms and their environments is vital. By fostering respect and taking responsibility for our actions, we can begin to mitigate these impacts. To our listeners, thank you for joining us on this enlightening journey through the intricacies of biodiversity and the pressing need to act against its loss. If today's discussion has sparked your interest or concern, we encourage you to delve deeper, engage in the conversation, and help spread awareness. Please remember to subscribe, like, and share this podcast to help us reach more listeners. Your support is crucial in driving forward these important conversations. For more content and to connect with like-minded individuals, make sure to visit A Guy with AI World and access our content across podcast platforms and YouTube. Join the discussion on Facebook via the link on our webpage and contribute your voice to this global dialogue. Thanksgiving, everyone, for your time and engagement. Don't forget to tune into future episodes for more insights and discussions. Together, we can make a difference for our planet and its incredible diversity of life.